here we are again at Leerburg. Michael came from his school in California to film a new training video on motivation. We haven't finalized the title yet, but we spent all day yesterday filming it. Really great information. We always ask customers to send questions that they have for Michael when he comes, and we try and do some that will go on our newsletter, that will go on our website, and that will go on Michael's website. So if you're new to this, you can always go back and see some of the old newsletters and the old Q&As on both of our websites. But today, we have a question from Spencer, and I'll read it for Michael. It's a good one. Michael, how do you go about teaching your puppy the meaning of no? I'm raising a Border Collie, and she can be very persistent in doing what she wants to. I'm raising her as close as possible to your methods and what I've seen Cindy do. She's ExPen, crated, Flexi Leaded with a harness, treat bag 24/7, marker training, etc., etc. My one concern is about teaching the no. What I've been doing is just staring at her and saying no repeatedly. Then when she complies, I stop saying it and break the stare. Is there any more you can teach me on the subject until she's old enough to be leash popped as a correction? She's 11 weeks old, so most no's are about jumping on the ExPen, nonsense barking, or peeing inside, which I'm sure you know about. Okay.
It's a good question. It's one we get a lot. It spawns a discussion. This is a slightly more complicated discussion about how we use no in everyday life and how we use a marker in obedience to communicate to the dog when they're right and wrong. With little puppies, 12 weeks old, a Border Collie is a sensitive dog. I do very little telling them no and very little aversive stuff. I would not stare at the dog and repeat commands repeatedly to the dog. One, you potentially stress the dog out. Two, you lose the precision of the meaning of no when you repeat it over and over and over again. The way we teach no initially is with negative punishment. So everyone should go out and get a quick review on operant conditioning, but we have positive punishment, which is actually giving the dog some form of correction or adding stress to the equation, or negative punishment, where the punishment is withholding something the dog wants. So when we initially teach our no mark to the dog, we teach it when we're working with the dog by withholding reward. So I would take food out, I would work with my puppy, I would tease the puppy with the food, the puppy's following the food, I'd stand up, the puppy would jump up on me to get the food, and when the puppy's feet touched me, I'd simply say no, and I'd pull the food behind my back and step away from the puppy. When they drop back down to the floor, I'd say good and give them a reward for doing that. So I want to teach them that this means very precisely that whatever you did right there is something that I didn't want, and you're not going to get a reward for that behavior. So negative punishment first, before we add any kind of positive punishment or correction to it. That doesn't really help you around the house and in life with a dog that's doing persistent bad behavior that you can't let them continue to rehearse. Right? So a lot of bad behavior in everyday life we manage and ignore until the dog is old enough that we can teach it other behaviors. So with little puppies, a lot of the way we keep the dog from getting in trouble is by managing their life, using crates and ExPens and keeping them away from stimulating situations that are going to make them bark and chew up things they're not supposed to, all those sorts of things. So we spend a lot of time managing their lives until they're old enough to understand what we want from them. That said, there are certain behaviors you can't ignore. You can't let the dogs continue to do them because the act of doing those behaviors themselves are self-reinforcing. So one of those is barking type behaviors. If you put your dog behind a fence or someplace and the dog runs and barks, the act of running and barking starts to feel good. The more they rehearse it, the more intense that behavior gets, and the harder it's going to be for us to stop it later. So some of those behaviors we have to stop right away. So we can either remove the dog from the situation, manage it, put the dog somewhere where they're not stimulated, they can't bark, they don't see anything going on, or we teach them another command to stop doing something. It has to, if you're going to use positive punishment of any kind, it has to be different than our no marker in obedience, because you'll pollute it. So in obedience, if I say no to my puppy when I'm using negative punishment, when I'm withholding reward, I would want to use a different sound. in everyday life. Stop, or whatever. And then you're going to have to follow it up with some kind of aversive experience, unfortunately. With an 11-week-old Border Collie puppy, I'd be very careful about doing this. They're sensitive dogs, they're very young, and any kind of physical correction could undermine your relationship, make the dog avoidant, cause other problems that you don't want at this stage. But, for instance, jumping on the ExPen, when my dogs do that, when my puppies do that, and I don't want them to, I make a determination. Have I given you enough stimulation? Have I taken you out, exercised you, done enough? Have I given you things to occupy yourself? But if the puppy's persistent about jumping up, trying to climb out of the ExPen, barking or things like that, then I'll simply say stop or and poke him a little bit with my finger, just say, hey, don't do that. And when he stops, I'll toss a treat in there, give him something, and then I release the puppy when he's quiet and go do something else to burn off some of the puppy's energy. But I would say at this stage, with your puppy, I would work harder at managing those things than trying to tell the puppy no, like a real true stop. That develops over time with our training relationship, and I would try to avoid having to do that to the puppy at this stage.
Good one, good one. Last night we were talking, and we've decided that we're going to put all of these Q&As as we release them in podcasts on both of our websites and on iTunes, because it's good information, and people can download them to their cell phones and listen to them. I think it'll help a lot of people.